As you can see on stage, we have a great lineup of panelists. And on today's panel, we're going to talk about some use cases, about deployments of LoRaWAN in the real world. We're going to talk about what makes that happen, what are the do's and don'ts during the process. We're also going to talk about, measurable ROIs during scalabilities, and then we're going to talk about the ecosystem involvement. And before we jump into that, let's just do a very quick, introductions with the panelists. Michelle, want to start?
Sure. Hi, Michelle Lozada with Semtech. Semtech is a founding member of the LoRa Alliance and inventor of LoRa. So we provide the silicon and chipsets in every LoRaWAN device out there.
All right, ready?
Hi, I'm Rish. I'm from the Things Industries. You already saw the keynote from my CEO earlier. I do sales and business development. I've been at the Things Industries for almost 10 years now, so you could say really since the early days of LoRaWAN. And yeah, we as the Things Industries, we help companies start with LoRaWAN, scale with LoRaWAN, and basically, yeah, it's the go-to place to, if you want to do anything with LoRaWAN, Things Industries is your place to get started.
Perfect. Yannick?
Yes, so I'm Yannick Delibie. I'm the co-founder of Kerlink. So then I'm the co-founder also of the LoRa Alliance. So Kerlink is an infrastructure provider. We provide gateway and tools to maintain them in all operational condition. So we provide gateway and only gateway.
Awesome. And finally, myself, my name is Betty Fan, and I'm the North American Regional BD Manager at C Studio. C Studio, we provide end-to-end solutions for end customer deployment with LoRaWAN, but primarily we're focusing on providing various of hardware and node devices like temperature sensors, like different type of sensors, environmental sensors like trackers, and then help our end customer to scale and deploy that needs that in their real life. All right, quick. So now that you guys know a little bit about us, let's jump right into the discussions. So the first of all the questions to everybody, why LoRaWAN, right? So what do you think that convinced our customers to choose LoRaWAN to solve their real world problems rather than other technologies? And Yannick, do you want to start off?
Yes. So when we selected LoRaWAN, it was 12 years ago. We selected LoRaWAN as a new connectivity for several reasons. The first one was for the high radio performances that allow some very good connectivity at low cost. The second one was with extremely low power for devices, so allowing to have project with a good profitability at the end. And the third one was due to the modulation scheme for the cost-effective infrastructure, allowing us together to have a very interesting coverage for IoT network with a low investment. So it took us almost 10 years to be a legacy technology and to validate the global economics, so the business model. So now, here we are. We are ready to do that.
Yeah, I think the beauty of LoRaWAN technologies is amazing because when Seed actually started doing or exploring, it was because that almost, I think, 2018, and when we started to look into like smart agriculture. And we were looking for this technology that we can just like throw it out there wirelessly and do not trying to like tamper with that for like 3 years. Mm-hmm. And we were looking at this kind of ways to do it, and then LoRaWAN pop up, be like, oh, that's perfect. Like for outdoor applications, we throw it out there 5 years, you got all the data, and you don't have to do anything. So the ease of deployment and then low, barely need any maintenance is what actually, what I think for a lot of our customers, the reason to choose that. Mm-hmm. And it's really interesting how we were focusing on outdoor application, but then gradually there's more like meter rings or even smart buildings that is bringing indoors, and a lot of applications we haven't think about. Yeah.
I think I would say like the why LoRaWAN, I think the one simple is operational efficiency, right? Like a lot of companies, a lot of enterprises, they don't really care what technology is being used. For them, it's about operational efficiency, saving dollars, saving euros, saving whichever currency, right? So I think this is really at the core. And now, 10 years later, I think in the first 5 years of LoRaWAN, you sort of had to highlight out the low power, the long range. But nowadays, people are like, yeah, I want to do temperature monitoring, and I want to do this in one city. I want to do it across the whole country. I want to do it globally. Is LoRaWAN, are you able to do it with LoRaWAN? Yes, and then they are ready to go, right? So after 10 years now, with so many advancements in the ecosystem, with so many vendors, with so many options available for solution providers, it's become more of just operational efficiency. That's the way to sort of go with LoRaWAN, and we're seeing more and more of this, where people come and they have a specific problem to solve, and yeah, LoRaWAN is fitting all the pieces in.
Perfect, sure. Yeah. And Michelle, like from a standpoint with Semtech, who
Yes.
you know,
Yes, two of the main drivers that we see really are energy costs as one example, and infrastructure constraints. So I'll give you an example in France with their waste management transformation. Municipalities were sending trucks on fixed routes regardless of whether the bins were empty or full. But using LoRaWAN sensors allowed data-driven collection, so triggering only when the bins were full. And you were talking about cost savings, operational efficiency. So first off, that resulted in 20% savings as far as fuel costs. Also 20% improvement in operational efficiency with the route optimization. So basically, France was able to turn a little over 7 million euro investment into over 300 million euros in return. That's a 40-to-1 ROI. Right. And they saw similar type of drivers across all 5 of the verticals that they studied. Building energy as one example, 731 million euro net benefit and 10% energy savings, as well as the water metering, which they saved, I think it was 811 million cubic meters of water, while also reducing their pumping costs. Right. So that, by the way, is the equivalent of 324,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools, so not insignificant. Okay. For cargo, a couple of examples that we see as drivers are security and economics. Half the cost of cellular with multi-layered security that RFID cannot match.
Yeah, that's great and awesome. And okay, so now we know that why people choose LoRaWAN. And the next question is going to be going into deployment and scale. So one sentence, very quickly, when customers talk about scale, what typically do they underestimate?
I think when they talk about scaling, it's not about, scaling is not just about adding devices, buying devices, or adding your corporate credit card on your public cloud vendors. It's about managing complexity, and it's also about managing stakeholders and people involved.
Right.
And these two things are often underestimated, that it's just simply not that you go out and buy 100,000 devices and your solution will be there. This is a whole long process of managing expectations with your initial stakeholders, then talking to your customers, talking to service providers. So I think these things are usually what we see are underestimated. But having said this, it's also getting better now with people knowing a lot more examples out there. People are understanding that, this is something I have to start from day one, not at day 100 or not, further down the line.
Yeah,
so this would be
absolutely. Michelle?
Sure. I think the biggest thing that we see at Semtech is that people are solving for the deployment costs when they should be thinking about the infrastructure reuse, because that one network can enable many applications as well as revenue streams.
Yannick?
Yeah, I don't know, but as we already said, I think the operational cost and the fleet management, it's really key to success. It's a key success for the global rollout for all projects that we have.
Yeah. And then from a device level, when it comes to mass deployment, I think our customers tend to underestimate the consistencies of deployments. So a lot of times you would think, it's essentially it's wireless, you just put it anywhere, but it's not the case. It's to make sure the technology goes with the best performance it will have. You need to map out, you need to have a game plan. essentially, to do like everything consistently to make sure you utilize the best of LoRaWAN technology. Yeah, and then also I think a lot of these underestimations is when it happens, like when people are trying to do like mass deployment. Yeah. So the next question is going to be, from your perspective, what is the hardest part of deploying LoRaWAN at scale in real environments, and how have your teams overcome it? And Michelle, want to kick off?
Sure, of course. So I would say that ecosystem readiness is a big thing here, right? Ensuring that there are certified devices available, proven integration patterns, skilled partners who can help with deployments, right? But of course, LoRa Alliance has open standards, has recognized hundreds of certified devices that are available, so that bypasses the custom development bottleneck, right? Network operators like Netmore have shown us how to overcome infrastructure constraints. With the cargo security example that I mentioned, Netmore installs a handful of gateways at the ports and terminals for free, right? So that's completely independent of the IT infrastructure that exists that use cellular backhaul, and also bypasses the approval cycles that may take upward of a year. Right? So when ecosystem partners can handle the deployment and customers choose from available certified devices, your deployment time can compress from months to weeks.
Right. Yeah, and then Michelle mentioned about Netmore, and also like from TTS standpoint, as a network, management team, and what do you guys think on this?
I think from like what we see is the main, especially talking around scale, it's around total cost of ownership in a solution. So, for instance, if you are like with LoRaWAN or in IoT in general, it's mixing hardware and software.
Yes.
So you have a lot of people who are really good at software. You have a lot of people who are really good at hardware, but finding the mix is always very difficult.
Right.
Like, to give you like a very simple, like high-level example, if you deploy a software and something goes wrong, your customer is shouting at you, you can fix it over a weekend. You can put together your dev team and you can fix it maybe a weekend, maybe a week. If you deploy 100 devices and something goes wrong with the firmware, yeah, like you have to either recall or bad things are going to happen.
It's not fun.
So these type of things are often something that, I think in the beginning we saw a lot of people make mistakes. They learn from it. But underestimating this total cost of ownership around devices, hardware, and how you're going to ship it, how you're going to buy these devices, are you going to like get them and then provision them one by one, or how are you going to do remote monitoring of gateways? For instance, you have 1,000 gateways deployed and something goes wrong. Are you going to send a technician, or are you able to have remote access to the hardware and able to do things like this? So I think these are like some things that we see become extremely important at scale, and it's good to address them in the early stages so that you're able to be in control of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all share like the same, like some of our customers are the same for indoor positionings in large facilities. And when it comes to like devices and networks, we're talking about in one building like hundreds of devices connect to that. And it's hard to kind of managing, juggle between like the hardware pieces, the network pieces, and the software pieces. So I think to also Michelle's point, that it's great that we have an ecosystem and everybody is doing their job on their positionings, and then we trust each other, and we can build a solution that can be delivered with a joint force instead of just one of us. And Yannick, you want to comment on the challenges?
So clearly, with the IoT project, we have two main issues. The first one is the integration complexity. As you know, LoRaWAN is complex by nature. It's really complex. So we have a global integration on the value chain, because we have devices behavior, devices classes, regional parameters, gateways, packet forwarder, radio configuration, backhaul, LNS. So we have a lot of points to integrate a full chain of LoRaWAN. So it's one of the biggest issue that we have today. It's to underestimate the complexity at the beginning. So the first one, and the second one is the fleet management. So when you deploy, when you are in a rolling phase, you really need to have a real view of your fleet. Fleet means devices and gateways to be able to have the higher performances radio network to be sure that you are able to reach your return of investment at the end. So the 2 points is integration, complexity, and good fleet management.
Yeah, and then I think the good part also is that now that during the whole process, as we're seeing a lot more deployments, the technology luckily is also evolving. And when we talk about deploying like thousands of devices on the field, and then it doesn't because of LoRaWAN's frequency band, before you cannot do OTA, and which means that if you have a problem with the current firmware, you have to retrieve everything and then do OTA by itself. But now with the technology getting more into that aspect, we can now experiment on, and hopefully very soon, mass deployed FOTA devices. So that will give a huge, it's a huge game changer, I think, for a lot of our customers. So that in these cases, they're kind of offhand. They're like, oh, I deployed this. If I want to do any upgrades on my softwares, I don't have to go back and talk to everybody and be like, oh, give me your devices. So that's also what I think is great with the whole ecosystem. Like it's like slow and steady, as you know what I mean. Like we started off, and then now that we're gradually with more customers coming on board, like we're delivering the stuff that we are supposed to delivering, but at the same time we learn from that and we evolve from it, which is absolutely amazing to us. All right.
One point is slow, steady, and it's sticky. Right? Once you have these devices, you're not going to take them back, right? If you have your device in a fridge somewhere, temperature monitoring, and if it's really part of your critical infrastructure, why would you take it out? So it's slow, yeah, it's steady, and you could have, like you probably saw those graphs. Once you have like a strong base and once you have proven a positive business case, it's very sticky.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. All right, cool. So, and then I think we covered the process, like how to deploy the LoRaWAN solutions. And now let's move on to what happens after deployment, which essentially is the ROI part that everybody, especially business, are focusing on. So where do customers typically see ROI first? Like, is it cost savings, operational efficiencies, or new services? Like, what do you guys see on your customers' perspective? Yeah, Yannick?
So I can take the first example for that, for a real use cases is for energy management system. In Europe we have strong regulation that is this year it will be mandatory to install a digital thermostat for apartments to be able to save energy cost.
Yep.
And for that LoRaWAN is very good technology for that, for sure. And due to the cost-effective installation infrastructure hardware, clearly the ROI today is in less than one winter season. So that means we are able to have a return of investment of the installation and the installation cost in less than 4 months.
Right, yeah, I think the energy is a great example because we also are seeing, because of the European policies, that now we're seeing a lot of adoptions of LoRaWAN sensors being put into that. And especially, I don't know, for Europe, I think a lot of buildings are older buildings. So a lot of traditional solutions is not fit because you have to run wires and you don't want to damage that 100-year-old buildings by dripping holes and breaking its wires. But in this case, LoRaWAN solution is absolutely great. And what from our standpoint is that we've been working with energy controls, upgrades. So a lot of the older machines that we use, like a Linux-based, like maybe Raspberry Pi or even Rockchip, gateways to put in there. But then now with the demand or requirements of LoRaWAN and the abilities of combining those, now we have a lot of opportunity to do a fusion gateway, which essentially is a edge controller, but then you have the capabilities of adding on, say the the Semtech like 1302 into that, so that it can be transformed also as a LoRaWAN gateway. So it's kind of like a combination. I think like on the investment side, you don't have to purchase a bunch of different stuff, but now you can do like a combination of the solutions that can solve your problem once for all. Yeah. And then Michelle, you mentioned also about the meterings.
Sure, absolutely. So France. I mean, we talked a little bit about the waste transformation, the waste management transformation, right? Where they really saw the fuel savings, right? So cost avoidance. Then they became more operationally efficient. Water metering, they can eliminate, for example, manual reading times, right? In addition to the other benefits. And the thing about that water metering infrastructure that's already in place is that it can also support the building energy monitoring. Yep. It can support consumer smart home devices, right? And multiple applications. So really the key thing here is deploying once and enabling many applications, because this infrastructure multiplier is where the ROI truly compounds over time.
Yeah, I think we can all relate to the reuse of infrastructures.
Yeah, that's been, I think, a highlight or a trend that we see a lot nowadays. And to explain this a little bit in short detail, there's a company in Netherlands who was doing pest control. So I think I also see some rodent traps in this venue. Very simple use case, right? If a mouse or a rat comes inside a trap, you send a message via LoRaWAN, and you can send someone to clean. Now, initially, this use case was quite difficult to, let's say, convince the company to get started with this, but they got on board. Okay, 3 years went on. They really loved this use case. Things were going well. Then suddenly came COVID. When COVID came, they realized, hey, we have to do now contact tracing. Okay, now instead of setting up the whole network again, they realized, oh, the network is already there. All I have to do is just buy some devices. Yeah. You can buy those trackers, BLE trackers, which you can use for contact tracing. So now you see you made an investment on a pest control use case. You can add other use cases at zero marginal cost. And it doesn't stop there. Then in Europe, for instance, there was this energy prices going up in 2022 with the war. And that suddenly meant now buildings were interested in optimizing their energy consumption. What do they need to do? They don't have to deploy the network all over again, because the network already exists. And this is where companies suddenly realize, oh, wow, I just need to find one business positive use case. And from there on, it's basically, I don't want to say magic, but it really feels like you can really optimize you can add other use cases at zero marginal cost.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities, because Yannick was also talking about that rodent trapping solutions.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest lessons that we had on the last 10 years, is that the business model based only on coverage rates is not, has no sense. It's really we need to deploy a network for a use case, and we can't share it. We can't share it for the other use case. This is the best way to do. Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think for on ROI, return on investment part, I think another turn is also either how well and how fast you get returns, and also how little you have to invest. I think that is also a great point when it comes to business. I think also for LoRaWAN, reuse of infrastructure is lowering their threshold of reinvesting new facilities, new infrastructures on existing something, which I think is great, because now with one gateway you connect with hundreds of, it has the capabilities of extendable. It's extendable for different applications and use cases. And then I think on our experiences for a lot of the solutions that we've seen, another part is that when it comes to introducing a new technology, especially people who are not too familiar with that, it's a newer technology. The main concern is less on ROI, but then more of whether it's going to interrupt with what I already have. So I can try it, but then if it's damaging my existing systems, they tend to stand back and say, you know what, I'm going to think about it. Because if it didn't go well, then we have to fix everything. But I think that's also the reasons that when it comes to ROI, our customers will think about that because LoRaWAN technology is kind of in parallel with commonly like 4G, Bluetooth, what has been commonly used in these use cases and people are being protected of. So for example, like in hospital settings, you want to install like door sensors, presence sensors, you want to have trackers, paging stuff. But in these cases, they already have a lot of like their own protocol devices. They have their pagers, right? They have their little push buttons you talk to. They have all their Bluetooth, sensor devices already there. And they're like, you know what? I'm interested in this, but I already have hundreds or even thousands of devices here. I don't want to add on more load into my Bluetooth network, or I don't want to interfere with my Wi-Fi because it's the hospitals. Like they need to make sure that the emergency line goes up, and it is always on. So in our cases, we can propose to them like this is a separate thing. Like when you do add on LoRaWAN solutions, it's not going to interfere with your current systems. It's a different frequency band. It's operating in like 800 to 900 megahertz, which means that say in the cases in the beginning, if you're concerned that LoRaWAN will not work, it will not work, and then it will now damage your existing stuff. And then for a lot of stakeholders or business, this is also very important for them because they don't need to risk on damaging their existing stuff, and then that in case of lowering their investment onto the new technology as well. Yeah. All right, awesome. So I think we also talk about like the ecosystems previously, and then we're talking about utilizing these deployments. So I think Yannick was just talking that for the energy systems, it takes around like one winter season, right, to see the ROIs.
Yeah.
Have we seen like faster ROIs like turn up like extremely fast?
Sure, absolutely. So the cargo security that I mentioned earlier is from a company called Zenzi with their cargo visibility network. As I mentioned, Netmore is a network operator that installs the gateways at the ports and terminals for free. So at half the cost of cellular, you get ROI on the first trip, right? So.
Yeah, so like that's like you can utilize what existing is out there. So in these cases, I will have to say that investment in this is close to zero even, that it immediately get returns. So like that's also like the beauty of having an ecosystem, I feel like. So what do you guys take on, how important that is, or like our overall experiences of utilizing the partnerships, like different, with all our different value chains, like how important that would be when it comes to deploying and doing scalabilities?
I think extremely important, right? And so it's also very difficult for one player or one company to own the entire value chain, right? So I think what we've seen also in the LoRa Alliance, you saw all these different logos on the slides. It is emphasizing the power of this ecosystem.
Yes.
And by having stronger partnerships, I think for the end customer, it also means that it reduces the time to market. Like you have these trusted vendors who've been there for such a long time. You have these devices that are available, you have these gateways, you have expertise in radio deployment. So I think doing this alone is always very difficult, but doing this with partners makes it quite easy and fast to deploy. So I think it's extremely important to work with partners. And the other thing which I think I would also like to highlight is this developer ecosystem, which I think if you put technology in the hands of many, you're going to see a faster adoption, and you're also going to see faster deployments. So I think both this partnership along with the ecosystem play are quite crucial, and we see that in the LoRaWAN ecosystem where there's a huge developer ecosystem and there's a lot of partners who are working together with each other. Every use case, I think Henry also mentioned a few use cases, and every use case you are working with Semtech chips, you're working with gateway manufacturer on the LNS side. So it's a very strong sign to see that it's not just one or two players in the ecosystem, it's a whole 500 member plus ecosystem that you are partnering up with. So I think it's a very strong signal.
Absolutely. Yannick?
Yeah, so what I'm trying to do every day is to avoid customers saying that LoRaWAN technology doesn't work. And for that, we really need good product, good products, so with a high quality, good services, and so that means trusted partners. Yeah.
Yeah. And Michelle, like Semtech is pretty much partnered with everybody. So you have to say about that.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously the partnerships are essential, and that's one of the beauties of the ecosystem, right? Is that, you know, everybody specializes in, you know, silicon, hardware, software, network operations, you name it, right? Rather than trying to own the whole stack.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you also mentioned about, you know, like utilizing other technologies, like a hybrid of combination, like 4G or even satellite.
Sure.
So I think that is also like a very important or evolving kind of bigger ecosystem we're talking about. Because I think in a lot of the use cases and our you know, customers' applications, there is not one solution for everything. So you care to like comment a little bit more on those like hybrid and how that ecosystem is looking like and how that benefits?
Sure, absolutely. So you know, you know, let me start with again the cargo visibility network from Zenzi, right? They use terrestrial LoRaWAN at the ports and terminals, and you know, the shippers consume the solution, and you know, there's also the satellite hybrid, which is important too, right? Because terrestrial plus satellite can provide the coverage, global coverage for those applications that truly need it. Ocean transport, remote agriculture, areas that don't have enough density to justify the terrestrial networks, right? So this ecosystem is ready to provide that global coverage, terrestrial, where the density justifies it, and satellite coverage where it does not.
Yeah, and also I think Kerlink also has like 4G backhaul devices.
Yeah, but also we have a project with hybrid mode satellite and LoRaWAN. So satellite using it's on a freight railway market. So and the satellite is really used to have a good coverage for event tracking like shock, wheel issue. So we use the satellite coverage to provide alarms, and we use terrestrial network using LoRaWAN for the maintenance, the statistics, and the remote control of the devices.
Right. I think the technology is great in combination because it's filling in all the different gaps that the other technology doesn't. From our perspective, on a lot of building management, there are more and more companies tend to use like they use PoE on their gateways and stuff, but then they would always want to have the options of having a 4G backhaul just in case, you know. And then in this cases, LoRaWAN is more, in this case, less competing with the technology or connectivities, but more of an extendable, because like 4G, it can't reach the basement, you know, it's extremely costly, but then now that LoRaWAN is filling into these gaps that the current, you know, like commonly 4G Wi-Fi couldn't cover. So I think it's also, in a bigger picture, that's what, you know, makes LoRaWAN technology valuable in this whole ecosystem. All right, cool. And I think now that we've talked about, you know, cover a bit on the ROI side, I think hopefully it's informative to our audiences over here. And I'm sure that, you know, the second round of raise of hand, hopefully now you're a little bit, convinced to, make your first steps on deploying your LoRaWAN deployments. So when it comes to a new customer or someone new that want to make their first steps, you mentioned about having that developer ecosystem. I think what can we do as enablers to help our customer to make that first step?
I think what we can do is, I think I will also say, you really have to make sure that it's accessible. And it's, again, LoRaWAN as a standard, it's an open standard. Making sure that developers, users have access to getting started. They have, so like I also mentioned in IoT LoRaWAN, you're addressing the hardware ecosystem, you're addressing the software ecosystem. So making sure that this integration between hardware and software, it's easy for people to get started with. There's proper documentation, there's proper content, and this is not a one-time thing, right? You don't just do the documentation once and then hope that it just works. It's a continuous process. So this just has to be an evergreen sort of a process. And if you, shy away from it, then you're not going to have adoption.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important to have this engagement with the developer ecosystem, and also to highlight more of these use cases, because I think it also, like for instance, if someone is in oil and gas sector and they suddenly see that, hey, my competitor is using this LoRaWAN technology and they're able to get 30% savings on something, they would also be very likely to at least explore, right? So I think us as the ecosystem should also highlight a lot of these use cases, and not for just the corporate, jargons, more in, okay, this is how it's saving, this is where it is, this is the learning from it, so it's also a bit more informative. So I think I would say like these two would be the main.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think what TTI currently is doing is that you guys are building these like sandboxes, I think.
Yeah, so we have our product as, you have two side of faces. So one is the sandbox version, where we're really focusing on getting from 0 to 1. 0 to 1 is basically understanding whether you have a business positive use case or not. It's really giving you all the tools to validate and do it quick, right? You don't want to realize 9 months, 6 months down the line that, oh, this was not the right idea. So we do this with the sandbox version. And then for enterprises who have basically gone through that phase, we then help them out with the cloud and the on-premise option. So you see, like us doing this, we already have quite a big pool of people who are doing their DIY setups at home in the beginning, and then they realize, oh, this technology can also be used in my production use case, or they can also be used in my industrial use case. So I think addressing both the aspects is quite crucial, and we've now done this for the last 10 years, and we see now the results. You saw that in the slides, that this is where the adoption takes over. It's the hard work in the last 10 years that's paying off now.
Yeah, I think accessibility is very important also for a lot of the newer people coming into on board, which I think is the reason that I think from our perspective at Seed, we're starting off doing open source hardware stuff, and we value that developer community and that newcomer communities, like giving the chance of having like accessible hardwares. That's open source. So a lot of times it's like, oh, this is not perfect, my solutions. I couldn't find anything. And a lot of our customer is, because they're targeting on very niche verticals, very niche applications. There is no existing devices that's on the market that can fit into their technologies. But if we open source and give them these reference designs, they can quickly just do a prototype, or they can hands-on build their own stuff. And then they can come over to saying that, hey, you know what? I've already prototyping, it's working. So now let's invest more onto building a specific devices that can actually go to market and scale. So I think that capabilities is also very important in these cases. All right, cool. I think we're close to the end of it. And just to sum everything up, we're going to have a little lightning rounds, very quick answers. So one thing customers do better today than 3 years ago?
I think using ChatGPT and AI models, they are very much in the last 3 years, the landscape has completely changed. But I think what last 3 years, what has changed is the amount of devices, the amount of showcase, amount of solution providers who have gone through the hard phase of not working, like the POC not working out, right? So they've already faced failures. They know which direction to go.
Right.
So I think this knowledge, this experience that these customers have gained over the last 3-5 years, that means that going forward, they are more likely to succeed. They're more likely to scale, and they're more likely to have a return on investment on their skills.
Perfect. And then a second question, one trend that mattered the most for LoRaWAN over the next few years?
I think it's going to be that terrestrial satellite hybrid model to really enable massive IoT at an unprecedented scale.
Yeah, and then I think maybe Yannick, on one pieces of suggestions that for all the business that's looking for deployments in 2020, like massive or scalabilities deployment in 2026.
So do not underestimate the complexity, the integration complexity, and select the right partner. We have a very rich alliance with a lot of people that can help you to set up your IoT project.
Yeah, and then my advice to everybody, go check out the LoRa Alliance booth downstairs, and then join the community, use the ecosystem, and partner with these all these amazing ecosystem partners. And I think that's it, and hope everything is informative, and we'll be right in the corner if you want to talk to us. Thank you.